Gentlemen, it is not from the respect which I feel for you, nor is it because I think you deserve the appellation of gentleman, that I bestow it on you. It is not the possession of 30,000 a year, nor is it a smiling countenance with a heart harder than stone, which constitute the gentleman. Nor is it being in the receipt of 1,000 a year of the public money, for which the receiver does nothing, that can give a fair claim to this title. I can hardly think that a blustering, swaggering gait, a consequential, important air, a head without brains sufficient to put two ideas together, these qualities, valuable as they may appear to you, are not enough. There must be something more to deserve the name. If these be sufficient to constitute a gentleman, surely a whipper-in will never lay claim to the title. However, as you have, I suppose, no very clear ideas on the subject, I will try to enlighten you. A real gentleman never values himself on his birth. A man of understanding knows that family pride is family folly. He knows that the ancestors of those who call themselves noble acquired their honours by rapine and plunder, and that the wealth of the great was acquired in the same way as their honours. He knows, too, that receipts for the property of the illustrations were written in the blood of former possessors. A real gentleman is always civil and obliging. He never treats anyone with contempt on account of his poverty. So far from thinking himself a superior being, he is well aware of his own imperfections, and always inclined to view those of others with a favourable eye. This is but a short sketch, and feeling no inclination to lengthen it, I shall proceed to address you on your conduct as commissioners. How you became commissioners I do not exactly know. You, I suppose, appoint each other, and you account to yourselves for the public money. There are few in the county, but what pay tolls, and it surely will not be deemed presumptuous in anyone if we inquire how this money is appropriated. There is a law in existence by which the commissioners may, to suit the public convenience, cut through any poor man's land by paying him the value of the property. But this law gives no power to cut through the park, paddock, or plantation of a rich man. The new road leading to Newport was, during the life of Mr. Kemmis, prevented from taking place in consequence of this clause. But you have, I believe, no law to prevent the public from making inquiries as to the application of the public money. It is neither treason, sedition, felony, or libel to inquire whether the money which you receive as commissioners be properly applied. In 1819, Morgan Harhay, a sawyer residing at Newport, took the Macon Gate at the yearly rate of £126, and his brother, William Harhay, became surety for the performance of the contract. Now, as God Almighty has not given you too much sense, I will, in as few words as possible, explain to you the nature of a contract. I shall not go very deeply into the subject, for if I were, you would be obliged to get someone to read this for you. I shall therefore make it as simple as possible. A contract means an agreement or bargain between two parties. One part of the contract is clear and specific, the other implied. Each party agrees to do a certain thing. You let the gate to Morgan Harhay, and you insured him the peaceable possession with the profits arising from it, for which he agreed to pay you the sum of £126 a year. Now it is possible that this contract, without any impropriety on his part, might become null and of no effect. Suppose, for example, that after you had let the Macon Gate, you had made another road, by which the travellers would have taken from Macon. You would in that case have kept to your contract. You insured Morgan Harhay the peaceable possession of the gate, and no more. There is no clause, I'll engage, in the lease by which you prevented from doing anything of the sort. But let us consult our understandings for a moment. Will anyone suppose that the spirit of the contract would have been kept? No one will assert that Morgan Harhay, provided you had acted as I have described, would, in equity, have been compelled to perform his part of the agreement. If this reasoning be admitted, which few will, I believe, oppose, I have established my first proposition, that the contract might have become null and of no effect. Suppose a man were to take a farm of Mr. Phillips, one of the commissioners, and this farm being situated near the sea-wall, the sea breaks down the wall and destroys the farmer's stock. What? Would the farmer have to pay Mr. Phillips rent after this loss? Here the implied contract comes in. Mr. Phillips lets his farm at a certain rent. The farmer is to give so much of his labour for the use of Mr. Phillips' farm. But if by anything which human wisdom or foresight could not prevent the stock of the farm be destroyed, is Mr. Phillips to be paid for the use of his land? Certainly not. Provided the tenant had other property, Mr. Phillips would in equity have no claim on it. Have I made this clear to you? If I were writing to the radicals, I should not be thus minute. In 1819, Morgan Harhey, after a proper calculation, agreed to give £126 a year for the Machen Gate. He considered that after allowing himself something for his trouble, he should be able to pay that sum. In about a year after this contract, the tin works of Messrs. Hertford got out of employ. This being the principle from which Morgan Harhey expected to make up the rent, he became convinced that it was impossible for him to fulfil his agreement. What did Morgan Harhey do in this case? Why, he acted the part of an honest man. His wife, who managed the gate, waited on Sir Charles Morgan and informed him that in consequence of the stoppage of Messrs. Hertford's works, it was impossible that she could continue to pay rent. Sir Charles desired to come to the meeting of the trustees, and he had no doubt that the gate would be taken up. Morgan Harhey's wife attended the meeting and stated her case to the commissioners. Sir Charles and Mr. Lascelles thought it would be right either to take up the gate or to make an allowance equal to the loss. These commissioners forgot one thing, and that was their master was in the room. Prothero thought the best way would be not to take up the gate, nor to allow any particular sum, but to wait the expiration of the contract, and then to take off a handsome sum at once. This was of course agreed to. At the expiration of the 3 years for which the gate was taken, Morgan Harhey was deficient of £80. Morgan expected that this sum would be allowed him according to the promise of the trustees. When the time expired, the whole of the money was demanded, and because it was not forthcoming, an action was brought against Morgan and his bail. Now, Messrs. Commissioners, you shall hear the consequence of your being guided by lawyers. A bailiff was sent to take Morgan's goods in their execution, and the first thing he saw was Morgan's wife, far advanced in the state of pregnancy. The effect which the sight of the bailiff had on the woman you shall hear in the man's own words. "If I had known," said the officer, "I would not have gone into that house for £100. The woman's belly is up to her chin, and she is almost frightened to death." The fright brought on a premature labour, and while the woman was confined, the bailiff came to take her husband to prison. This finished the business, and Morgan's wife became a corpse. The infant survived. I am now writing in good health and spirits, but if I thought that I should not see justice done for this deed, I really believe I should break my heart. If men can regard actions of this sort with indifference, there is nothing which they do not deserve to suffer. Can anyone think of a woman placed in that situation without feeling? We have as little reason to expect compassion from sheriff's officers as from any men. But even the heart of a bailiff melted before this scene. Would not men possessing anything short of hearts of stone have waited for the recovery of the woman before they sent the husband to prison? Or would they not have considered how the wife was to be maintained in that situation if deprived of the labour of her husband? Oh no, wait I. Morgan Harhey and his brother were sent to jail, and they have left 9 children behind them to be maintained by someone. If you suppose that folks cannot see as far through a millstone as you, you deceive yourselves. People know that bringing actions and sending men to jail give work for a lawyer, and it is also known that if the persons sent to prison have no cash, the lawyer will be paid out of the public money. That is, the bill will be deducted from the proceeds of the turnpike gates. He is the evil. If there were no professional men connected with the trust, the Machen Gate would have been taken up, or at least Morgan and William Harhey would not have been sent to jail. But pray, sirs, what benefit will the public derive from sending these men to prison? They have no property. Suppose they had. Suppose William Harhey had by 20 years' hard labour saved a little money. Would you take it from his 7 children, and would you pay the lawyer's bills out of the hard-gotten earnings of this man? Yes, if he had 70 children, his shirt would be taken off his back. One moment, and I have done. Morgan Harhey's wife is dead. She cannot be restored. She is waiting for you at the tribunal, where lawyers will be of no use. Morgan and William Harhey are alive. They are able, active, resolute men, and they will have justice. John Frost.